Your child is burning up. Their skin is hot. Their breathing is short. They have been crying for hours and now they've gone quiet, which is somehow worse than the crying. Today you'd grab a thermometer. You'd open a browser. You'd call a doctor. Within an hour, you'd have a name for it and a plan and a reasonable expectation that they'd be fine by morning. For 300,000 years, none of that existed. No pharmacy, no pediatrician, no idea that microscopic organisms even existed. Just your child, your hands, and a fever you couldn't name. So how did any human ancestor manage to raise a child to adulthood when they didn't even know what was making them sick? The answer is one of the quietest, most heartbreaking, and most beautiful parts of being human. And it's the reason you exist. Let's start with the reality. Researchers analyzing skeletal remains across prehistoric cemeteries have estimated that roughly 40 to 50% of children died before reaching the age of 15. Some studies push that number higher. Roughly half of every child ever born in human history did not live to grow up. Sit with that for a second. Half. And the things doing the killing weren't dramatic. They were ordinary. Diarrhea from bad water, lung infections, parasites, small cuts that turned septic. Things a modern pharmacy fixes in 20 minutes were ending lives that had barely started. And the parents had no idea why. So what did they do? They tried everything. The first thing they had was the mother's body. Breastfeeding is one of the oldest survival technologies humans have. Breast milk doesn't just contain calories. It contains antibodies, the actual molecular weapons of the mother's immune system, transferred straight into the child. When the mother was exposed to a pathogen, her body produced antibodies, and those antibodies showed up in her milk within hours. For thousands of years, mothers were running a personalized vaccine factory and didn't know it. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer groups like the Hadza in Tanzania have found that children are often nursed for 3 to 4 years, sometimes longer. Compare that to the modern average of about 6 months. Ancient parents didn't know about antibodies. They just knew that children who nursed longer got sick less often, so they kept their children at the breast for as long as they could. Then came the plants. In the 1990s, ethnobotanists documented over 100 different plants used by the Hadza alone to treat childhood illness. Willow bark for fever, mint and ginger for upset stomachs, honey for coughs and wounds. Modern research has since confirmed that many of these actually work. Willow bark contains the chemical precursor to aspirin. Honey is mildly antibacterial. Ginger genuinely reduces nausea. The knowledge was carried in conversation. No textbooks, no prescriptions. Just one mother teaching another what to do when a child can't keep food down. Then, about 10,000 years ago, something changed. Humans started farming. Populations exploded. People moved into permanent settlements with livestock and shared water. And new diseases that had been waiting in animals jumped straight to children. Measles, smallpox, influenza. The death rate for children didn't just stay high. In some periods, it got worse, and still parents didn't stop trying. In 2008, anthropologist Sarah Hrdy published research that changed how we understand human parenting. She argued that humans are one of the only primates that practice what she called cooperative breeding. We don't raise our children alone. Aunts, uncles, grandmothers, older siblings, unrelated members of the group. Everyone helped raise everyone's children. And when a child got sick, that system became a lifeline. A sick child needs constant attention. Someone has to hold them. Someone has to keep them warm. Someone has to try to get water into them through the night. A single parent doing that alone for days would collapse. Ancient parents weren't alone. They were inside a network of people who had all been sick children once, who had all watched children die before, who all stepped in without being asked. This is the part that gets lost. We exist not because individual parents were strong enough. We exist because nobody had to do it alone. Then there was the part nobody likes to talk about, the rituals. When the plants failed and the fevers wouldn't break, parents turned to ceremony. They sang, they prayed, they burned things, they wore amulets. They performed rituals their grandmothers had taught them when they were too young to remember. None of it directly cured anything. But here's what modern research has shown. Children pick up on the emotional state of the people holding them. A panicked, hopeless parent transmits panic. A calm parent doing something with purpose, even if that something is irrational, transmits something closer to safety. The rituals weren't medicine. They were a way for parents to stay functional. And in some cases, the calm they generated might have actually helped the child. But for all of it, the children still died, constantly. And the way they were buried tells us everything. At a site called Sungir in Russia, archaeologists discovered a 34,000-year-old burial of a young boy and a young girl. Buried with them were thousands of mammoth ivory beads, animal figurines, spears, ceremonial caps. Researchers estimate it would have taken thousands of hours of labor to produce the grave goods in those two graves. The children couldn't have earned any of it. They were too young. Their parents made all of it. For them, after they were already dead. That's not the behavior of people who treated child death as routine. That's the behavior of people who were absolutely shattered by it. For decades, historians assumed ancient parents must have been emotionally distant from their children because the death rate was so high, that they couldn't afford to love them too much because too many of them would die. Recent research has completely overturned that idea. Across cultures, across continents, across millennia, the evidence is the same. Ancient parents grieved like modern parents grieve. They wrote about it. They buried their children with their most precious possessions. They pressed their own hands next to tiny handprints on the walls of caves. They never got used to it. So here's the full picture. For 300,000 years, parents watched their children get sick and tried everything they could think of. They nursed them. They fed them plants their ancestors had figured out by trial and error. They handed them to relatives so they could rest, then took them back to keep going. They sang over them through the night. They held them while they died. And then they had more children. And they did it again. You exist because your ancestors did this. Not just some of them, all of them. Every parent in your direct line, going back tens of thousands of generations, watched at least one child suffer and refused to stop trying. The next time you put a hand on your child's forehead and check for a fever, you're doing something ancient. And you're doing it because someone, somewhere in the dark, did it first.